There is an entity in this world pushing hate, an international elite we will call the deep state. Divide and conquer is the game that they play. Black versus white, straight versus gay. But imagine an Ireland where we all come together, put our differences aside and unite for the better. They try to restrict on how we behave, but in truth they want humanity enslaved. They wage war on our nations by opening our borders like puppets on a string, or politicians blindly follow orders. Divide and conquer is just what they do. They want to see me fighting you. The war that we fight isn't about race, it's the survival of my people's heritage and rightful place. An Ireland for all is a wonderful theory, but exactly where does that leave my people? I need to query. Multiculturalism and diversity seem to put my people last. Equality for all just seems to want to burn Ireland's past. Our heritage, our culture, we have the right to protect. But racist we are called by those we elect. The nation's people must all stand as one, or Ireland as a nation will be done. Black or white, straight or gay, left or right, standing together. No matter our differences, we must endeavour. The real enemy we face are the heads of the state, standing together and entrusting some fate, that with God on our side, victory is assured. But unfortunately for many, sacrifices need to be endured. The puppet masters hide behind anonymity. They attack our country and our people's vulnerability, turning me against you, turn the majority against the few. Use the mouthful pieces in media to push fear and hate. We must bypass the actors before it's too late. Of this I'm sure we will win. Their narrative is crumbling and failing. They have tried to destroy your fate so they could push division and hate. Good will always triumph over evil. With love in our hearts we will conquer the devil. My country is mourning with the attack on its people, but soon the mass will awaken and no longer be sheeple. We rise with Irish blood and fight for our land. Standing together as one, we will save Ireland. Erin Go Bragh.
For what died the sons of Roisin? Was it fame? For what died the sons of Roisin? Was it greed? For what died the sons of Roisin? Was it greed? Was it greed that drove Wolfe Tone to a martyr's death in a cell of cold, wet stone? When we've sold enough of Ireland to be but strangers in it, to whom do we owe our allegiance today? To whom do we owe our allegiance today? To those brave men who fought and died, that Roisin live again with pride, her sons at home to work and sing, her youth to dance and make her valleys ring, or the faceless men who for mark and the dollar betray her to the highest bidder? To whom do we owe our allegiance? For what suffer our patriots today? For what suffer our patriots today? They have a language problem, so they say. How to write no trespass must grieve their heart full sore. We got rid of one strange language. Now we're faced with many, many more. For what suffer our patriots today?
United Nations has clear laws that's meant to protect all Indigenous people, including the Irish, from forced assimilation. The so-called United Nations Declaration on the Rights of the Indigenous Peoples are 1. Indigenous peoples and individuals have the right not to be subjected to forced assimilation or the destruction of their culture. 2. States shall provide effective mechanisms for prevention of and redress for a. any action which has the aim or effect of depriving them of their integrity as distinct peoples or their cultural values or ethnic identities. B. Any action which has the aim or effect of dispossessing them from their lands, territories or resources. C. Any form of forced population transfer which has the aim or effect of violating or undermining any of their rights. D. Any form of forced assimilation or integration. E. Any form of propaganda designed to promote or incite racial or ethnic discrimination directed against them. So why is it that no nation right now, including Ireland, is protecting the rights of the Indigenous people of all nations? Quite simply put, the United Nations have always had another agenda. An agenda that would finally eradicate all borders and all cultures and all peoples. The goal of the United Nations has always been to create all nations united under a one world government dictatorship. Aisling Murphy, just 23 years young, just wanted to go for a jog. Ireland should have been a safe country for a woman to go for a jog. Aidan Moffat, aged 42, and Michael Schnee, aged 58, just wanted to go on a date. Their only crime was being gay and meeting an imported Islamic extremist who wanted to kill all gays. Ireland should have been a safe country for our gay folks. The victims of the Gaelscoil Cláiste Mhóra terrorist attack shows that Ireland's children are no longer safe, even just going to school, because another imported criminal who was known to An Garda Síochána decided to attack them. The truth about Ireland right now is that immigrants, including illegal undocumented criminals, now have more rights than the safety of our own Irish Indigenous people. Ireland has had immigrants in this country for years and never had this fictional far-right movement. So why now do we see mass numbers of people taken to the streets? Simply because immigration is a natural flow of regulated migration into one's country. When you see the large numbers of immigrants coming into a country that's already struggling with homes and resources that we cannot provide to our own Irish brothers and sisters, which is adding extra pressure onto the already overstretched resources that we have, there is either an agenda to blow up the system or the politicians are absolute morons. I really wish it was the latter, because in reality it's part of the Great Reset. This isn't simply natural immigration, it is unregulated, weaponized immigration, it is a plantation. Yes, Irish people immigrated, and yes, many of them are probably criminals themselves. This is irrelevant to the real problems we face here and now in our country. Firstly, the Irish people that are still in Ireland stayed in Ireland throughout the harshest of times and right now have to fight once again to protect the freedom of our country. People fleeing their country during war abandons their country when their country needed them the most. Throughout history, men fought to protect their land in times of war. Women stayed to care for their men and their children. Women also helped in times of war by being nurses and feeding their fellow soldiers in these conflict zones. In World War II, women were encouraged to volunteer to raise funds, take in evacuee children, and take jobs in war work factories. They were also asked to join military ranks. 75% of women who joined the forces were volunteers. Now we praise men and women who run away from conflict in their homes and calls them heroes for raising flags of solidarity within safe countries that they flee to. Instead of giving emergency accommodation to these people fleeing war, we give them resources and homes that we could not give to our own Irish brothers and sisters. This is replacement theory, lads. You see, virtue signalling has now become more important than virtue itself. People raising foreign political flags, such as LGBTQ, for instance, which represents adults' sexual preferences and deviances, are praised, as if someone should be praised for who they have sex with. Is that the Ireland you really want? Celebration of someone's sexual activities? We have people parading the streets of Ireland with Ukrainian flags, now replaced with Palestinian flags. Again, this is all virtue signalling, not virtue. If I want to stand and fight for my home, I will do so in my own home. When the fight is at your doorstep, you protect your home on your doorstep. Doing this shows real virtue and common sense. Well, common sense is a threat to the establishment's narrative. This is why they label those trying to protect our own native land as far right. I say to the virtue signalling Marxists, instead of standing with Palestine, why don't you go and stand in Palestine and fight for the country you claim to represent? And take your LGBTQ flags with you as well. Queers for Palestine is no different than chickens standing for KFC, as you'll find out in Palestine if you went with the LGBTQ flags. All of our current government, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Greens, are merely puppets to the international deep state, who are pushing a capitalist economy with a socialist, communist political system known as the World Economic Forum's stakeholder capitalism. Your NGO class are your stakeholders and will be your main local control within your 15-minute smart prisons. Ireland's fake opposition such as Sinn Féin, Labour, People Before Profit are more extreme internationalists, however, as Irish republicanism are now Marxist socialists. Marxists often refer to socialism as the first necessary phase from capitalism to communism. The international deep state is a consortium of wealthy globalists who want to dictate how we live our lives. The people promoting the socialist agenda, Agenda 21, are the socialists? Absolutely not. You see, communism is not the creation of the masses to overthrow the banking system. Instead, it is the creation by the banking system to overthrow and enslave the masses. Every one of these political parties represents a globalist international agenda, which is the United Nations Agenda 21, that aims to dictate how every man, woman and child will live and how their freedoms will be governed. An international entity, let's just call it the deep state, has infiltrated Ireland's politics, our judiciary, our mainstream media, our healthcare and our education system.
This notion to integrate young leaders is part of the World Economic Forum since many years. When I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.
And finally, the Taoiseach, or Prime Minister of Ireland, Leo Varadkar, particularly welcome because you are also one of our young global leaders. So,
is he still young?
Yeah, he's still young. We all are young here.
There is no need for invasion in psychological warfare or psyops, as it uses the NGO system to push their agendas into our communities. It uses subversion instead of elections. Those who are in positions of power are put there by those same internationalists. They use intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. Antifa, state-sponsored terrorist organisation who consists of both far-left totalitarianists and also far-right anarchists. You see, you cannot bring totalitarian state without the use of chaos. So far-right anarchy burns cities down like we saw with Black Lives Matter and Paris and more recently Dublin, pretending to be either socialists at times or nationalists. In truth, anarchists only exist to bring about the chaos needed for their totalitarian far-left system to bring the order. Government now will have people believe that anarchists, aka real far-right, are the same mothers and fathers who have been protesting peacefully these past few years against the totalitarianism of our current government. That's why they love the label far right, because now it can put you into a collective ideology, it can put you into a box and claim that every single parent, everyone who speaks out is far right. It's a beautiful system and many idiots will fall for it. Unfortunately, when you understand how the enemy works, divide and conquer is the oldest trick in the book, and people are no longer falling for your bullshit. I'm not talking about just nationalists. Most normies, most socialists can see through your fucking lies. Order out of chaos to bring about Novus Order Seclorum, the new order of the ages, or the New World Order. A United Nations agenda we now call Agenda 21. A sustainable police state prison system with zero freedoms unless you're granted them by your communist dictators and NGOs.
What type of stakeholders do we have? The constituencies?
Stakeholders, we have, if I look at our stakeholders, we have business, of course, as a very important audience, and we have politics, we have continuous partnerships with many governments around the world. And of course we have NGOs, we have trade unions, we have all those different parts.
Media, of course.
And very important experts and scientists and academia. Because if we are looking at the future, I think we should look at new solutions, and the new solutions will be very much driven by technological developments.
And we even have, you even have religious leaders, right?
We have religious leaders, we have social entrepreneurs, very important social entrepreneurs.
Every politician and every journalist are in support of this, for many different reasons, but they're all in support of this. Those who have fought and died to keep Ireland away from both foreign and domestic enemies did not die so we could allow this country to be ruled by a group of internationalist parasites, hell-bent on the destruction of our country in pushing multiculturalism and diversity and sexual perversions. They died trying to preserve the Irish people and the Irish culture, and more so to protect ERA. Will you stand and fight for ERA, or will you, like many Irish before you, turn your back on your country and allow enemies, both foreign and domestic, burn out your ancestors' home? The time is now to pick a side. Will you choose Ireland or choose to burn Ireland to the ground? The people for 4 years have been demanding action by our employees, i.e. the government, to make Ireland safe again. They have ignored us. They have defamed us. They have attacked us. We have asked politely, but instead they declared war on us by refusing to listen, and worse, by pushing legislations that will make our opinions and our emotions illegal. Love and hate are emotions, not a crime. But trying to make it a crime, well, that is just tyranny, and tyranny is the highest crime one can commit, something almost all our Irish politicians and journalists and NGOs are guilty of. Those of you crying over Thursday night's riots need to understand that businesses can be rebuilt, that stocks can be restocked, that vehicles are usually insured and can be replaced. But what cannot be replaced is innocent lives brutally murdered by the decisions of our government. This isn't anti-immigration. It's fucking common sense to know who is coming into this country and what sort of history they have before allowing them into our communities. You do not allow a stranger into your home where your children sleep. So why should we accept strangers into our community where our women jog, where our gay people want to be safe to meet partners, and where our children just want to go to school? We have a primary duty of care to our own people first and foremost, and not looking after the world. The day that you believe that it's racist to want to protect your own children and Indigenous people, the day you believe that it's far right to protect your own country and culture, is the day you become a treasonous, anti-Irish enemy of our country. And everything your ancestors fought and died for, you have sold out because you are weak. Mainstream media will have people believe that the Irish mammies and daddies who have been peacefully protesting tyrannical government for the past 4 years, who the same tyrannical government have labelled far right as responsible for everything.
So actually the very best of our city, Warren, Caio, Leo, Siobhan and others, people, white Irish, immigrants, coming together, putting their lives on the line to try and protect children. And what we should have been doing now was our city, our country uniting around the families of the victims in solidarity with them, but instead, sickeningly, disgustingly, far-right, racist, fascist agitators said, this is our chance. This is our chance to incite a riot. This is our chance to spread hatred and division. We know who incited this riot. We know who called for people to come out on the streets. These people didn't hide themselves. They did not issue the calls anonymously. At 2:16, a white supremacist, Mick O'Keefe, issued his first tweet. He followed off at 2:50, saying that a foreign man entered the school and stabbed 5 children, said that the kids are dead. Fergus Power tweeted at 2:55, a 5-year-old girl is alleged to have passed away. This better get people off their arses and out onto the streets.
Including pushing illegal immigrants into murdering and raping our women and children, and then responsible also for causing violence with the burning down of Dublin and the riots that pursued last Thursday. After a terrorist attack where young children were violently attacked, you see, they want to equate nationalism with terrorism. Nationalism and nationalists want to preserve a safe Ireland for the people of the nation, to preserve our identity, our culture, our heritage and our traditions, not burn the country down. Anyone involved with the Dublin riots and looting were opportunists and thugs. Or are we now meant to believe that the day 3 young kids were stabbed, that the state labelled racists stood in solidarity with foreigners to loot and burn down Dublin? What is it? Are Irish right-wing racists our partners in crime with immigrants? Opportunists, thugs and Antifa anarchists were behind the attack on Dublin. They will claim we should accept that immigrants are going to commit crimes, and that we should accept this because Irish also commit these very same crimes.
To try and avoid connecting crime with migration. It's not right. Yes, of course, people who are migrants might commit crimes, just as people who aren't commit crimes. In a country of 5.3 million people, if you have hundreds of thousands of migrants, there are going to be a few of them who commit terrible crimes, just as there are people born and bred in Ireland who commit terrible crimes every day, including murders. And when I see what happened in Parnell Square, what I see is a suspect who is a migrant, although a citizen and somebody here for over 20 years. I see a 5-year-old child in hospital today, both her parents coming from a migrant background, and her born in Ireland. And of the 5 or 6 people who intervened to stop the attack, 4 of those 6 are migrants to this country. It's totally wrong to try and make out that there's a connection between crime and migration based on what happened on Parnell Street.
Thank goodness for this underclass of immigrants who are willing to work for far less than those awful locals. What's a few stabbed innocent children? What's a few Aisling Murphys, Aidan Moffats and Michael Schnees, so long as your every whim is catered for with minimal outlay? But I will counteract that statement. Imagine if it was your son who was murdered, or your daughter who was raped by an illegal immigrant. The truth is simply this: your son or your daughter would not have been victims had Ireland's borders protected them. Aisling Murphy would still be alive. Aidan Moffat and Michael Schnee would still be alive. All the victims of imported criminals would now be alive and unharmed. As of now, Ireland has a duty of care not only to the Irish Indigenous people, but also to all citizens who have chosen Ireland to live in. No matter what race, ethnicity or sexuality that person has, we cannot protect them with open border policies. The only way we can keep Ireland's Indigenous people and its legal citizens safe is to close the borders and deport all illegal immigrants and all immigrants who have committed serious crimes now, not tomorrow. It's time to make Ireland safe again. Use common sense and wake the fuck up, era.
We have to prepare for a more angry world.
Social revolution, anger on the streets. We are at a rupture point. Turning point of humankind.
Dr. Kissinger, our satellite time is running out. What wonderful opportunity to conclude our week here with such concrete proposals and ideas of how we can really create, I would say, a new world order.
Out of these troubled times, our 5th objective, a new world order can emerge, a new era, freer from the threat of terror, stronger in the pursuit of justice, and more secure in the quest for peace.
A place of home we call our own lies shattered in their hands. Blood-drenched hands, we finally know. The people now understand. Your Irish roots unearthed by men in suits who are trying to convert you into a nationless slave. They fail to see that you are brave. Divide and rule they try to do. They want to see me against you. They want your details so you are easily tracked. They want you locked down. They want your cash. How much peril must our people face, knowing the real enemy are the heads of state, posturing as our savior? They want to control your behavior. How much blood of children must be spilled on our streets for us to realize it's time to speak, to show them we are together, undivided, wholeheartedly united as one. The people of Ireland together as one, against them again. A place of home we call our own lies shattered in their hands. Blood-drenched hands, we finally know. the people now understand.